Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am your host for the next hour of conversation. Today, we're going to talk about the breakdown of the Black family. As a matter of fact, I want to begin a series of conversations as we round out this year on the family. What are the family dynamics? How do we begin to deal with the real issues that are plaguing our families, our systems, those things, and everything in of the like and in between. I'm in the studio today with my guy, the Rob Father. Rob, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm fine. How are you, man?
I am well. So, Rob, this is we are. I don't know if you say happy holidays now. I can say happy holidays. We have officially entered into the holiday season. How was your Thanksgiving?
Boring as usual.
He said boring as usual.
I don't celebrate with anybody, so I just sat home and watched TV and got caught up in some work.
Well, Rob, you know, at least you had a chance to just take a reprieve and just kind of clear your head for a second. For me, it's been really different. I don't know about you guys, but this holiday season was a little bit different. And I think everything post-COVID has been somewhat different. It was a small celebration with immediate family members. I think it was my mom, my brother, and myself. And, we just kind of did the traditional Thanksgiving thing, macaroni and cheese dressed and that kind of thing. And we hung out and watched a movie and those things. You know, it's interesting, Rob, as we talk about, as we lean into, and I really want to lean in this, turning the corner of the end of this year, rounding into the beginning of this next year. And Rob, I know that you have a strong history, and we've been talking about doing a show on foster families and foster parenting and things of that nature.
Right.
But when we talk about family dynamics, I really want to lean into what we can do because you come from a different family. And so just because it functions differently, I was always told that when we grew up, you grew from a single parent home, you came from a dysfunctional family. And I was like, dysfunctional? It functions differently.
Right.
And you as a person who grew up in the foster care system, Rob, do you think in terms of family elements, because you had strong men and women in your life, that you missed a lot of key elements?
Oh, no. I would say in my experience now, for those who don't know, I grew up in 4 different foster homes in the years of my life before I was 18. 2 of those homes were functional. Even with one of the mothers, one of the parents who died, and I was with her for that parent for another year and a half. And then when I went to my last foster, my 4th one, she was already a widower, had 2 kids of her own who were already grown Vietnam vets, and a daughter who was 2 years older than me. And she had 2 other foster boys, and then my brother Stephen and I joined the home there. That family was quite functional. Now, I've been in the 2 homes before that was not functional because there was all kinds of issues going on. Either the parents didn't accept you or the family or the community didn't accept you because you were not, quote unquote, the biological child of that particular family. And fortunately, we didn't stay there for very long, like maybe a month or 2, maybe 2 or 3 months, whatever. Just the same, though, they can be functional and dysfunctional, to use that term, depending on the dynamic of the home itself.
Every family can have dysfunction,
Exactly.
Whether it's 2 parents in there or not, right?
Exactly.
So I like to use the term, it functions differently. Those of you who are watching, if you're watching this via a social media stream, and I know a lot of you are probably trying to log in. You guys have been doing a great job in terms of your listenership and following through. You guys know if it's a real show, if it's live or it's Memorex. They're like, you aren't real, you aren't live. I want you guys to know that I'm having some computer difficulties. I'm not sure, but every single one of my screens that comes up, it looks like it is a fake screen. I can't click on anything on my screen. Something happened when I was on my computer earlier, and I just kind of chalked it up as to nothing. But I'm now seeing the aftermath of what's happening here. So if you're listening, we are still live on KISS WTLZ on Facebook. Am I correct?
Yes, we are.
So if you guys are listening and you saying, hey, I want to get into the social media stream, we are live on KISS WTLZ on Facebook, so you can catch us there.
We've got Jimmy Green watching, and also to preface, every recorded show will always have my voice. I'll say this is a recorded program. So unless you hear that, most likely every show you hear on this program or Community Connections or any program we have here will be live.
All right, so I certainly thank you. And Jimmy Green, you're out there in the stream. Certainly thank you for your listenership. All right, it is officially the holiday season, as we said. But Rob, I want to get back to my point. So this year, we were talking about Thanksgiving. We were talking about family dynamics. This year was a very different Thanksgiving. I don't want to say post-COVID because we're still dealing with it, and we'll find out if we're post-COVID very shortly. They were talking about the 3 storms that were brewing with the flu, and this is an SAR, SVR, the thing that affects the kids in the respiratory.
Right, SRV.
SR. There you go. I said it myself. But anyways, we are kind of reeling back. During COVID. For Thanksgiving during COVID 2020, for Thanksgiving, my mom was like, hey, yep, we're going to have a Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, come over. Let me know when you're coming, and your meals will be on the door. I mean, they literally.
I remember we talked about that, yeah.
To-go containers, styrofoam to-go containers, and we went by the house and picked them up. She wasn't playing.
I know, she handed flew right through the door.
Right, and waved at us like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. And so last year for Christmas, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, they were doing vaccinations. And so we did our part. We got vaccinated, really not because of our sales, my brother and I, but because of my mom. And so we did that, and we felt comfortable having Thanksgiving, but it was just really a small group, family group for Thanksgiving.
And to your point about traditional or functional, that was a different.
It was functional, absolutely.
It was Thanksgiving, but it was just different. It was not traditional. Everyone's Thanksgiving holiday is not traditional, quote unquote.
No, absolutely.
My tradition is pizza until I get with somebody. Other people's tradition is fish.
But the thing about it is, it's funny how life's circumstances and situations can change what we traditionally do.
Right.
But there's certain key indications and certain key things that we do that make us family that I think are very important because they're such a viable part of who we are as people and how we function. And so this year, there was no conversation about Thanksgiving, I guess, because for 2 years, we were kind of just small groups, isolated, families doing their own thing. I'm used to a huge family with all of the cousins, aunts, and uncles. I haven't seen that one in a few years. So this year, it was a very small Thanksgiving, traditional food. We did something that we never do, and it was a great opportunity. And I'll say this because I think it's important. And many people who grow up with younger siblings, there is a huge gulf between my brother. I think there's 16 years between my younger brother and myself. And one of the interesting things was, Rob, because it was a small setting, that I got an opportunity to see my brother in a different light this year, but just kind of over the past couple of weeks. But this past Thanksgiving weekend, because it was so small, and we had a chance to talk. And so even though we're 16 years apart, and I've always seen him almost like a son because I helped raise him and change his diapers, I finally was able to see him as a young man. And since we're talking about family, that was something that I greatly appreciated because I'd never had the opportunity to really see him in that light. I always saw him as this young kid. He's a young kid, my little brother.
Right.
And I say this because it's so vitally important. And what I realized, Rob, is that I kind of like him as an adult man. And it was an interesting, maybe it's only me.
No, I can relate to that because I like my son better as a man than as a kid.
But those of you who are out there, and as we go through this holiday season, especially with those younger siblings, let's take a little bit of time to get to know, their adult selves. And I thought about how many times we've pushed him back into that package of being the baby. Mm-hmm. And for the first time, he emerged at the dinner table. He wasn't at the little kids table, but he emerged kind of like for the first time, even though he had been there for years. He's, 30 years old. Even though he had been there for years, he emerged as a man in the family.
And equal.
As an equal. And I didn't see him. And it was kind of interesting. I was like, wow. And what happened was because he was a younger brother, both his parents were in the home. But when my parents divorced, I became, quote unquote, the man of the family. Right. And so our relationship has always been kind of like father-son. And, over the past couple of years, he's been kind of wanting to be seen as his own. I'm not a little kid anymore. And for the first time, he was able to be seen as a man standing on his own. And I was like, wow, I kind of like this dude. And so I actually took the opportunity to kind of hang out with him a couple of times after. And I just say this for all of you all who have younger siblings who are the younger sibling. And there's a big difference. When you're the oldest and you got some in the middle, then there's the youngest. Mm-hmm. We always look at those younger siblings as kids. They'll always be kids in our eyes, even with our children. Right. So take the time to spend and invest in their new adult selves. Invest a little time to have conversations that you would normally have and not those structured conversations by our family dynamics. Right. and you might be surprised what you find sitting right across the table from you. So let's get into it. So it's the holiday season, Rob. And I am the person. I used to do the mad rush to the all of the holiday fun, all of the stores, the Black Friday. Couldn't wait. We had systems set up. My auntie Lane, who's out in, I think it's probably one of the reasons we stopped as well, because she's out in Arizona now. But she would have maps, and everybody would know where they're going to be and which stores to hit and what to look for. Really? And we would have a time that we were going to meet up, at the restaurant, be it Bennigan's or Denny's, whatever it was. We're going to meet up for breakfast or lunch and just kind of cap off the time. I was like, I'm not doing that. So a few years ago, I stopped doing it, and it's madness to me. But you know what? The rest of America, I think, has kind of slowed down from, the stores. Nobody wants to open the doors on the Black Friday sale. Yeah. We've moved away from that, but we have continued our tremendous love for thinking that we're going to get the best deals on Black Friday. And so Americans spent, are you ready for this, Rob?
Oh, yeah.
A whopping $9 billion on Black Friday sales. And this is online. This is up 2.3% from last year, same time, same date. 221% increase over the average day of spending.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it would be at least cheaper considering the inflation rate and all that.
Well, hey, people are doing what they're going to do, and one thing that I know about Americans love a reason to celebrate. We'll find anything to do this. We can celebrate and find a celebration around it. But so the top sellers for this were the Apple MacBooks, of course, watches, drones, the Xbox, the X series or the Xbox Series X, FIFA games. And I wonder why FIFA is such a big thing. FIFA 23, because the World Cup is going.
Soccer, right.
And Canada scored its first goal ever in the World Cup. Was a black man that scored the first goal, worth noting. I paid attention. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I have no idea what those games are. I'm sure they're for kids. But the National Retail Federation said that during this Christmas season, and this blew me away, Rob, because we talk about how we don't have money for things. 942 to 960 billion, that's billion with a B, Americans are spending for this holiday. That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens when the credit card bills come in January.
hey, that may kick us in the shin, but hey, it was a good time making it, right?
And we still have Cyber Monday to go through tomorrow.
And we still have Cyber Monday to go. So that 940 to 960 is the total cumulative. So on Black Friday, $9 billion on Black Friday alone, but throughout the holiday. So people are making a move, and what they're saying is that because the surplus was so great during the height of COVID, we couldn't get ships on, in and things of that nature. The world shut down, and catching up ship schedules was absolutely horrendous. Right. And then people kind of just stayed to themselves, so they ended up with a surplus. Now they have this surplus. So if you're really looking for deals, Black Friday wasn't necessarily the best deal that you're going to get. The closer to the holiday we get, the better those prices are going to be. Right. I think the digital components, the TVs and things that were digital on Black Friday were things that were the things that people were really looking for. You may have gotten your best deal there. But I want to say this because we talked about cryptocurrency a couple of weeks ago.
Right. As a matter of fact, that was going to be the repeat show today.
Absolutely. Oh, I slid in. For those of you who are listening, I slid into the radio station today. So for Thomas Township, Swan Valley Township, Saginaw Township, Saginaw City, and other police officers and associated affiliates, I certainly apologize because I think I did break a few records on today, but I slid into the show. Thanks, Rob. So this is live, not Memorex, if you were wondering. Right. But we were talking about
coincidence. I had that show planned today because I thought it was interesting information.
Okay, very interesting. So we talked about cryptocurrency, and on I think 2 weeks ago, I brought it up again, and I was sharing with you guys that FTX, which was one of the largest cryptocurrency companies, lost $16 billion. That's right, $16 billion. And it was like they didn't know what was going to $80 billion overall, right?
In cryptocurrency.
Yeah, in cryptocurrency. Right. It was a company that was worth $80 billion overall. But this is what is the key, because I told you all that because anything that the government cannot regulate or control, they'll always find a way to put an end to it until they can breathe life into it and have a controlling stake.
Naturally.
So I told you all to look at the marijuana factories. We got how many Pookies and Ray Ray all over the city of town, all over the country that are locked up because they were selling nickel and dime bags.
I can go further than that. The lottery.
Even the lottery.
The lottery.
Come on, now that took us home a little close.
Play numbers for my aunt when I was a kid.
But these are things that the government can't control it. They'll make it null and void. They'll vilify it. And once they figure out how to make their money, then it becomes legal. Okay, so we see that happening. I told you all to stay tuned because this whole concept of cryptocurrency, the digital dollars, and all this stuff that there was not going away. So keep your ears. So what I found out before we did this, first of all, it's important for us to understand there is a great, like I tell you all the time, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Okay, if you were to talk about my views, I am probably a conservative, probably really close to where center exists right now.
Moderate.
Yeah. On a number of things. I can be very conservative about some things, and I can be liberal in my things as it relates to people and how people are treated and how the systems operate for its people. Okay. And so I tell us all the time that we've got to do some work. We got to get some parties, or if we can't get parties, we need people who have our ideals and our thought processes in these political offices, right? Well, what I learned is that FTX, the CEO, went on a bit of a giving spree, and $25 million to the Republican Party and about $40 million to the Democratic Party as donations to their parties, before this entire fiasco started. Now, Rob, one might ask the question, why would someone who is running what now they're resorting to and referring as kind of like the modern day Bernie Madoff, the scandal, right, the Ponzi scheme, why would he donate to those political parties such hefty amounts, like one of the top donors, just in terms of one gift, as he understands what's getting ready to happen with this company?
We call that protection money.
Absolutely,
protection money.
And so
just in case something happens.
And you're absolutely right, Rob. And so I want to say to all of my people, in the struggle, as Kurt Franklin would say, I want to say that this is exactly this is a problem. I would demand, if I were a part of those parties, that they would give that money back. Do you think that would ever happen, Rob?
No. Well, not in front of you and me. No.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen off in closed doors. It definitely won't happen.
I'm saying that's what they would say.
Absolutely.
We will. But behind closed doors, it's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Too many interests around.
So when political parties can be bought by people who are going to have cases that stand before the individuals who represent these political parties, it is highly problematic. And so I don't even want to get into that, but I thought it was worth saying on my way to saying that over the Thanksgiving weekend, and Rob, you're going to have to keep up with what those comments and questions are on our social stream, because I cannot do it.
Oh, that's okay. I'll let you know. Like, for example, our buddy Jimmy Green, he always says something because his finger's always in the pie somewhere.
Okay.
And shout out to our friend Jimmy Green out there. He pointed out, for example, the independent party approach is exactly what he's doing in 23. So he's doing the independent party.
Yeah, Jimmy, those Republicans, those Trumplicans, my guy, are running you straight up out the party. It's hard. It's hard for a black man, I think, in the Republican Party at this time. And and Jimmy, I love Jimmy. Jimmy's a good guy. For those who are listening, we've always had great. We don't agree on how things should be done, but our vision for what we believe for our community has not changed, and we have a continued desire to see the best for our communities. Right. And so I appreciate him. And he's done some things to help me out with some friends that needed some help. So I appreciate him.
Also, to back up what he says there, he says himself, just what I agree to, Republicans and Democrats are more alike than they're different. I agree with that.
I would agree with you.
That's why I vote my conscience on certain issues, depending on who's doing it, because I can never clean the one, because I said, well, I'd rather not be in any party because they're all messed up.
There was a group back in the 80s that had a song, "You're a snake in the grass, just a snake in the grass." So there's a lot more similarities, I think, between political parties than there are. I think that sometimes they squabble and create differences for the purpose of being able to spend money the way that they want to spend the money.
And to hold on to power.
And to hold on to power. But my purpose for saying that is that over the Thanksgiving weekend, I don't know if I was reading in, I think it was one of the major, it was a major news outlet, and I want to say it was like the New York Times, that there was all the major banks in the U.S. and were doing a pilot test, hear me, Rob, on a digital dollar. I thought this was so funny. So while we were all out, stuffing ourselves with turkey and spending money with Black Friday, all of the major U.S. banks were working together to do a pilot test of a digital dollar. I told you,
quote cryptocurrency,
quote unquote. And so those of you who are out there, if that is a space that you're interested in, it's not that the space was wrong. It's just the controller of the space was not correct. And you'll never do anything that the government does not have their hands in and really be successful at doing it, not for a lengthy period of time. So anyways, congratulations to everyone who was out there, all of those elected officials from Big Gretch, Amos O'Neill, Dan Kildee, Mayor Neely and Flint, here in Saginaw, Mama Mayor Brenda Moore, Annie Bench, Rob, and our show leading up to before, I was talking about the people that I knew and the people who I understood who they were. Right. Annie was one of those people that has called and she's had several conversations. She actually replaced the Mayor Pro Tem Balls, Michael Balls, as the Mayor Pro Tem. So Annie Bench, congratulations. That is a changing of blood. Now, okay. I want to tell you everyone else. So Michael Balls is still on there, and I believe he's on there to 2006 because he was actually running again. Bench will stay in power until 2004 as it relates to the Mayor Pro Tem. She'll have to run again. Copeland is yet there. This was not a year for him to run. Michael Flores, I think all of Copeland and Flores.
Current city councilmen.
Yeah, they're current cities, right? And they come back in 2024 for their reelection. Sylvia Lamar, we know Monique Lamar, she's been around forever. Autumn Scherzer, who I always want to call her the other girl from Don't You Wish Your Boyfriend Was, what is it, the Spice Girls or whatever. Whatever it was, but you know her, Nicole Scherzinger. But anyways, her name always, but it's Autumn Scherzer. She was also elected. And then there was another individual, a young lady. I have no idea who this young lady is. Priscilla Garcia. Now I'm saying that intentionally. I have no idea who Priscilla Garcia is. And I don't. And that's not a bad thing. But I know that she was, I think, one of the last. She got her notification and her signatures or whatever she had to do just in time before voting deadline started.
Maybe our listening audience, we got Jimmy Green and Jeff Bulls on here as well. We've got Shar Gooseby. Maybe they can help us.
Okay, yeah, they're coming in. So I thank you guys for making the transition. And if you're listening, once again, for those of you who are normally here in the social media stream on Straight Talk, I'm going to need you to go to KISS WTLZ. I am experiencing some technical difficulties with my computer. I had a moment or whatever you call it. But we're going, let me finish this real quick and we'll take a quick break. But Priscilla Garcia, I have no idea who she is, Rob. And for me not to know who she is, and so after the voting took place, I went back and I said, well, let me see who received votes. Of course, our illustrious mayor, congratulations once again. Brenda Moore came in. She was a top vote getter for that. Followed by, in many places, this mystery woman, and I'll say that Priscilla Garcia, who I look forward to meeting. But I thought it was quite interesting that someone that no one really knew about it. And I've asked other people, who is she? Where does she come from? I haven't seen it. That she could make such a powerful stand and such a powerful showing. And so it allows me to know something, Rob, that she's there. There is a machine behind her. So now my thing is I got to find out what machine is behind her, because if there's a machine putting people in place or finding that kind of vote population, I want to know who it is. I want to know who is making moves to bring people in from what I would consider political obscurity. I've never heard of her. I don't know if other people have or not, or maybe I've just not been in the right places. But when they make that kind of move, that kind of showing, it shows that there's a greater element of people that are in support of her. And I don't deny, I don't have anything bad to say about her, simply that she came out of nowhere. What's up, Rob?
No, I was going to say your friend from the Hispanic community.
Bobby De Leon.
Right, maybe he might know.
My eyebrow raised when I saw that. I was like, Priscilla Garcia. So there were some meetings that I wasn't invited to when we were talking about the power of the Black and brown community I got to ask about. But it would let me think that there was a strong coalition of voters behind her. And I did not, I missed it. I didn't see it. But what I would like to say is that as we begin to move forward, what I want to say and what I've said to the community before we take this commercial break is that there is a need for our community to really take note and begin to plan. Let's not start planning, 2 months before the election cycle starts. But in 2024, there are at least 3 seats that I look at that I would really like to have conversations with our community leaders. Those who are part of the village, I would really like to have some conversations about these 3 seats. I have some ideas of the type of people, the individuals that we need to put in those positions. And as I saw Priscilla Garcia, congratulations on such a strong victory. As I saw the way in which she moved forward, I realized there is a need for us as a community to really stand up and to have these conversations, to prepare people and to put them in place so that we can make an impact as we look forward to the elections that are moving forward. Rob, I see you over there enamored with the social media stream.
I'm
not
always
sure
interested in what Jeff Bulls has to say sometimes, but these 2 points stand out.
Okay.
To share with the audience who's not following us, Priscilla, just from Jeffrey Bulls, winning is because people want change, and they had 2 more candidates who run, they would have won too. And then Charlotte Goolsby, if I pronounce your name right.
Goolsby.
Right. Perhaps she ran a very grassroots campaign. So again, I didn't hear of her either. But then again,
and Char, I appreciate that. And I would say that you're absolutely right, considering that I consider myself kind of a grassroots individual. I operate in places where people are making a difference. Jeff Bulls. I mean, if you were to talk about grassroots, there's no more grassroots than you can get in terms of making change happen than what Jeff Bulls is doing with CAP. Right. Community action for the people. So, and once again, they had their open house, and I missed it. But don't think that me missing your open house does not mean that I don't support you fully. And I love the work that they're doing. We always need some rebel rousers to keep things going and to really keep people engaged with the process. Rob, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk really quick about what this 50% plus 1 vote means in Georgia, why we need to be keeping our eyes on that, and why it's so problematic that Georgia and I think Alabama are still 2 of the states that have this in operation. Let's take a quick back. We'll be back with more Straight Talk.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
All right, Mr. Gobbles, it's that time of year again. Got any last requests? What? You want buku bucks for your trade when you buy America's lowest price SUV and your credit pardoned? Well, you're going to have to go to Showcase Mitsubishi.
Get door-busting Black Friday sales and exceptional trade-in values all month long at Showcase Mitsubishi Bay City. Even if you're stuck in a loaner lease, Showcase Mitsubishi Bay City wants to get you released so you can drive a new, more fuel-efficient Mitsubishi for less. Like a new 2023 Mitsubishi Mirage with 43 MPG highway. 0 down, just $239 a month. This is not a lease. You own it with 0 down in the Showcase Mitsubishi 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Showcase Mitsubishi Bay City says come and get it. We're the home of credit forgiveness, and you can get pre-approved up to $30,000. No social required. Lower prices, exceptional trade-in values, and a better buying experience. Only at Showcase Mitsubishi Bay City, the home of credit forgiveness and America's lowest priced SUVs.
83 months financing at 3.75% plus tax, title, license, and dealer fees with approved credit. Offers not combined.
This holiday at Metro by T-Mobile, get a free 5G tablet for the whole family. Wait, is that Luis Fonsi?
Imagine even more savings and more video calling, more sharing every memory. So happy together.
Enjoy a free 5G tablet after rebate with unlimited HD when you add a tablet line for only $30. Only at Metro. If congested, customers using greater than 35 gigabytes per month may notice reduced speeds plus tax via rebate on virtual prepaid MasterCard after 3rd monthly payment. See store for details.
Get more for your money with Cyberbucks, M-Perks, and Meijer. Save every time you shop with Cyberbucks. Clip the M-Perks coupon before checkout to save $10, $20, or up to $30. Redeem on each qualifying purchase now through December 3rd. Plus, get 50% off select outerwear and the entire stock of sleepwear for the family. And 30% off select Lego playsets. Get more for your money with the same low Meijer prices no matter how you shop, in-store and online. Exclusions apply. See all the deals in the Meijer app.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Straight Talk. We were able to make some adjustments, and so you guys are able to get that beautiful mug shot straight on with your host, Kareem, here today. No sound effects, but in the apropos moment, we get it, right? So I want to thank everybody that's out there. Shout out to everyone who's continually making Straight Talk your number one show to listen to on Sundays at 6 p.m. I wanted to continue. I told you guys that we're going to take coming up really quickly here. I think it the 6th of December. We have that runoff between Raphael Warnock and
I thought they
Walker.
I thought they were able to do that the first Saturday. The Saturday coming up the first.
And now it's in December.
Okay.
So at Warnock.
I'm saying this first Saturday in December.
Yes, first in December.
Right.
What date is that? It's the 5th, 6th. It's the 5th or the 6th.
Right.
Okay, so well, anyways, what I wanted to tell you guys about that is, as we were looking at it, I said, this is the most archaic rule that I've ever seen in politics. Like, why are we still doing this? And we saw this happen with Stacey Abrams when she ran as well, and not that it's about one person winning or not, but I'm just trying to figure out, why are we doing this? And when I did a bit of digging, Rob, I found out that that particular thing, as one of our listeners, Shar Goolsby, was saying, it actually has a very racist genesis, as she said. And the reason that we were doing that is because what would happen as Blacks were continually getting rights to vote. And I need you all to understand why there's so many things. And even as we talk, if we get to the genesis of our conversation today on the Black family and why we are seeing the dissolution of the Black family, we'll see, that we understand that there are a number of things. This nation, as much as I love it, I love the United States of America. I love our country. I love what we represent often as a people worldwide. However, we have a history that was really founded in racial inequalities and racism. Like, there's no other way to say it. And this particular rule, when one of the Georgian senators was getting ready to lose, it may have even been a governor. I can't remember his name. All of that stuff escapes me in the moment. But what took place is when he lost, he said that one of the reasons that he lost was because of voting blocks. Black people had now become a fortified voting entity, and they were now given the right to vote. And so they created a thing that if, as they were emerging and growing, that if you don't win by 50% of the vote plus one, that there would have to be a recount or a runoff, or not a recount, but a runoff. Mm-hmm. And what would happen in that runoff would give the other white candidates an opportunity to coalesce around their white superhero that they were trying to put in office, and to make sure that Blacks were not being voted into office. Now, this rule yet exists today, and its inception, and he came back, and I was reading an article where he came back after, years after he was in office, and he said, yes, this was racist in its inception, and yes, I did it to keep Black people out of office. You got some racists, I call them good racists, because a good racist is going to tell you where they stand. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and I meant what I meant. You know what I mean? And so he was that kind of guy. So when we see these types of things in play, we have to see that even though we have made strides, we are still fighting for the same things that we were fighting in the 60s and the 70s. And we've made some leaps and bounds. But as I told you, Rob, in 2020, that the biggest issue for Black America was making sure that we were to solidify and to protect voting rights. What has been done on that front, Rob?
Not very much. A lot of talk, but not very much, especially in our Congress. We could have made it a law a long time ago if they wanted to.
Absolutely. So now we have moved into a Congress that is now split. The Democrats hold a 51-49 lead. They can actually go up by 2 votes in the Senate. The Republicans own a majority in the House. And now I can tell you pretty much that the last thing that will be on anybody's mind will be voting rights, because unfortunate, and it really is unfortunate, the Republican Party now sees the fact of fair and more people being involved in the process as problematic instead of something that helps us to be better. Because I think that we become better as a nation when every individual that considers themselves American and legally is an American has the ability and the right to exercise their vote to right. So I wanted to say that we're going to make a transition over to what I really want to talk with you guys about today. And that is the breakdown of the Black family. It's important. When I first started this show, Rob, when did 3 years ago now? It's amazing that it's been 3 years. Rob, I know that you've fallen in love and you just can't wait to see me every Sunday. But it has been a long and arduous path. We have, and it has not always been fun. And so Robert and I have had tough conversations, and I think that the chemistry that we have in here and what you experience is really who we are and the respect that we've been able to forge with one another as men. And I think that speaks to, I think, one of the reasons why people continually log in, because when they come in, Rob, they know that they're going to hear authentic conversations. They know that you and I, we may not always agree with how we feel or where we stand with certain things, but they know that we're going to cut up and clown at the same time.
Interesting you should say it, because my friend Rick Irick in Washington, D.C. listens to this program from time to time. And he's disappointed whenever you're not here live, because he said, I don't listen just to hear you, Robert. I listen to hear what the other guys want to say. And so when he came to listen to the show on WSGW.
Yes, United States.
But he listens to this show quite often every Sunday, right after he listens to my show. So he makes comments too, because he gets right into what's going on and whatnot.
Well, I want to say this as we go into this conversation, because this is so very important. And what I'm getting ready to say is like really what I believe to my core. My being here and me really establishing and being graced to establish this platform was really based on the fact of how I was raised as a young man. My grandmother, who passed away in 2009, she said something to me that made me look at how I lived and how I viewed the spaces and the places that God had blessed me and granted me to be able to stand. And before she passed in 2008, she said something to me. She told me to stop. She said, stop clowning and jesting. Jesting and josting is what she told me. And of course, in old people speaking, she told me stop joking and jesting. I'm like, what joking? What are you talking about, Grandma? But she made it really clear. She's like, you gotta stop being such a clown. And people don't know that. People think that I'm really, really serious, Rob. I think you spend enough time to know that there is a very humorous side. And I really am. I love to laugh. And so I love to be surrounded by people and laughter. One of the things that she said to me was, whenever you're giving a platform, you got to have something to say.
Exactly.
And so I took that to heart. And in her passing in 2009, I began to use this program. And I'm saying this because we're going to be talking about the Black family. And when we talk about the Black family, it's not always just mother and father, but it's those grandparents. And so I hate to use the Black family because I like to talk about the village. Because all of us grew up, if you grew up, and you're 40-something years or older, then you grew up with some concept of what the village was about.
Exactly.
You grew up that you had mothers and fathers, okay? Their parents were a part of the village, but you also had uncles and aunts, and you had grandmas or big mamas and nanas that were all a part of the village, and they were the elders of that village. And it didn't stop there just with biological family, with bloodline. We also had our neighbors and our parents' best friends who lived down the street. And your friends' parents, they were all a part of the village. And
the family is essential,
The family unit was such a huge thing. And so it wasn't a situation or a time when the only people that were looking out for your benefit and your well-being were those people that were of your immediate family, but the entire community, the people that lived on the streets. It was a time when, you had to be home when the streetlights came on.
Yes.
And so I wanted to share this platform, Straight Talk, to talk about rebuilding the walls of the village. And I often said that, what do you do? We always say that it takes a village to raise a child. And we say that it's an African adage or proverb that we have said for so long as a community. It takes a village. And I asked the question on that very first show, but what happens when the village walls are on fire? And so I think I want to get back to some of our roots in terms of where we have come as a people. In the series that we're going to talk about family values, we're going to talk about, how do we rebuild the family? And we got to understand that, as things change, as time change, how we see and what we believe to be true in terms of what a family is often changes. And oftentimes, and what we're learning, Rob, is that family isn't just those individuals that you were blessed with through birth, but sometimes some of your greatest family extensions are those that we choose to make family.
Exactly.
Those who have identifying thoughts and feelings and that kind of thing. So
who got your back?
Who has your back? I mean, come on. You know, we always say blood is thicker than water, and that is true. But, you know, it takes, but blood has a percentage of water in it as well, okay? So we want to make sure that we're talking about those. I want to get back to this, and I'm saying this because when I began to have a number of conversations, and as we talk about racial inequality, and we talk about the inequities that exist in America, one of the things that continually comes up is the fact of, you know, I'll tell you, when I talk about inequality, there are people on the other side of that conversation that will talk about, oh, it's the degradation of the Black family. And I'm going to say this first. I got to say this first. But as we continue, you're going to hear other voices. You're going to hear other opinions. You'll get support. But I want to make sure that I lay a platform that we understand as a people where I'm coming from. I don't believe that all of the ills that we have in society as Black people comes from a degrading family. I don't believe that if we were able to just have, you know, good old family values, that a lot of the issues and the inequalities that exist would just go away. I don't believe that. So I want to make sure that we're clear of that. Go ahead, Rob.
We are involved in family.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, 62 years where I've been, where you've been, whatnot, and we shared the stories, whatnot. We are involved, and we're changing. And with change, we have to evolve, and we're growing. I would never say we're degrading because that would be too easy.
Well, I just want to make sure, for the sake of conversations, and the reason I say that, and I understand who my audience is, okay? I'm speaking to the village. I'm not speaking to the community at large, and anyone that comes from the community at large, they're going to have a village conversation over the next, you know, several weeks.
I hear you.
And what that means is I'm speaking to my people. I'm speaking to Black people. I want to be very clear. This is not a Black and brown conversation, although I think that everyone should be involved in the conversation. But I want to speak to my community, my Black people, and I want to have this conversation because I think it's so important. We were talking about Bobby DeLeon earlier today, and he's a man that I've had some time to be able to build a relationship with. I've also had an opportunity to just really get to know him. And Bobby, if you're listening, I don't know if you're still in the stream or not. You don't recognize, and you probably don't realize the level of impact that you made upon me in terms of standing up for those individuals and the citizens of your community. When I came over to the MAC, it's a funny story. I came over to the MAC, and when I got there, me and Bobby were meeting up, and we were just going to talk about some things that we want to do together, which are still on the table, Bob. And when I got there, he had a young Hispanic roofer guy that was checking out some stuff that they wanted to do some work over at the MAC building. And we were talking, and I was like, you know, Black and brown folks don't get the same opportunities as it relates to these opportunities that are taking place, you know, in the city of Saginaw and other areas. We always say that they don't exist. And this young man was like, well, I exist. I'm here. You know, you can touch me. And we had that conversation. So we went in, and as any good Hispanic family-loving man would do, when we came in and we sat at the table, this is what Black folks do too. What are they going to do, Rob? They're going to feed you. So we came in for a conversation, but there is no such thing just as a conversation when you come from Black and brown communities. Every conversation is laced with some sort of food. It's got to have food that is a part of it.
And icebreaker is food.
And he absolutely, it is the icebreaker. Skip learning the name. What you got to eat? And Bob, my guy Bob, he pulls out. He says, "Hey Kareem, I got up early this morning and I made you some chorizo and huevos breakfast tortillas." And I was like, "What?" And anybody who knows me, I have a minor in Spanish language and culture, so I speak and read Spanish language fluently. I didn't let him know that until then. We started kind of talking. I was like, "Yeah, you know, I love it." But it was just the culture of that moment, and sitting there eating something that is traditional for Hispanic Americans, and having that over coffee and good conversations, talking about how our two people could unite to do great things. But I think, and what he showed me and what we talked about in that conversation is that there is a need. There is a need for him as a leader in his community to really lean in and to make sure that Hispanic Americans are represented in a very powerful way. That's why I got to have a conversation, because there was somebody that showed up. I told you that. I'm like, where does this person come from? And it had his DNA on it. And I love that. I said, but we have to do the same things in our community as Black people. And I'm saying this, family, because I think it's so important. We're talking about, even in talking about the breakdown of the Black family, trust me, that will not be the conversation. We'll talk about how do we get the best of the Black family, because I'm not one who dwells in negativity. Because if there is an issue, if there are situations, I want to figure out what is the solution to change what it is that we're dealing with. One of our guys, Jeff Bulls out there, you epitomize in very many ways what I think that has to happen in other aspects of our community. We've got to begin to see issues, but then we've got to begin to figure out how can we begin to make changes and effectuate change in the areas that we see that are problematic, and stop talking about the issues that we got. Rob, I'm telling you, I have about 0.5% left in me to really deal with listening to what our problems are. We've got to turn the corner to solving some of the things that we've been talking about.
I'm of the opinion that Black people know we know what our
We
problem
know it.
We don't need anyone to tell us about it, which irks me. I know what our problem is, but I applaud us that anyone that's doing something about or in a position to do something about it, whether it be a minister or the president of the United States, if they're willing to help us do something about it and push us along, I'm all for that. And even the smallest fan, at me, as a lowly person, I can help my kid become a better Black man. I'm doing something for the community and for society as a whole. Don't tell me what my problem is. Well, the reason why you guys know, and I'm sure brown people don't feel that way. You don't want that thing. Don't do that to me. But I'm sure about the other who I've never met, I still like to meet.
Yeah, you've just said that several times. That's what we're going to bring this community about.
Agrees with the same thing.
And so I think it is this. And so I'm going to have this. I'm going to put this disclaimer out there because Rob, I've been accused of being racist. And I could care less what people think in that regard. That. That's why it's called straight talk. Right. I'm giving it to you straight, no chaser, no filter. And I would ask them, why would you consider the conversations that I have sometimes racist? And they said, because you're always talking about Black people instead of all people. And I said, well, all people are not unique don't have the same issues that I'm addressing as it relates to what I understand affects me, and I happen to be a Black man. And I say this to my listeners and to those who are out there. Never be ashamed to what James Brown said, to be Black and proud. I am a Black man, and I say that proudly. And even if I wanted to think that I wasn't, if I wanted to call myself, and I will say no names, a Euro, Asia, Indo, Pindo, whatever man, as one of our beloved athletes tried to do, he recognized that when he got into a situation, they reminded him that he was a Black man. Right. And so I embrace the fact that I am a Black man because it's what I have been my entire life. I embrace myself as a Black man because I love the fact that our people have been effervescent as a people. We have been like the cream. We have always come, no matter where we started, and we've had the ability to go from the bottom, and we always raise to the top. We have been a people who have gone through many hard times, and it's important for us to understand that when you lose your love for your village, then people will begin to use that as a way to water down the things that affect the people that are around you. So I said that to say this. I talk about the village because it's one of the places that nobody else is talking about. We talk about America as a whole. The larger part of America wants us to forget our atrocities. And I say that I don't want us to forget about slavery. I don't want us to forget about Jim Crow.
It's all part of our legacy.
It is a part of our legacy. And remembering Jim Crow and remembering the atrocities of being a slave, a descendant of slaves, allows me to be proud in the fact that no matter how bad we were beaten, no matter how bad we were flogged and scorned, no matter how many times our skin was broken by the chains and the whips, we have been strong enough and bold enough that we see and we live to have a better day.
And this is our privilege.
And that is our privilege. And I say this because it's important. I was having a conversation, and I tell you that the Black family starts with us understanding and speaking as the griots of Africa, to continue the stories of where we come from as a people. And not that we just came out of nowhere and we were slaves in this country, and we have 400 years of slavery, but that our people come from a rich heritage of people that come from places where we were landowners, that we were kings and that we were queens, and that we were people who understood while other people were running around on their knuckles and doing whatever they did, we were creating two-story buildings and having indoor plumbing. This is what our people need to understand. And if you take away that legacy, and they don't understand that they were creators and they were inventors and they were the original Adam in the world, in a place called Kimmy, where we get the ideas of chemistry and mathematics and understanding. We were people who understood astronomy before we even understood what it was. Then you take away the ability of them to understand how big their dream can be. Rob.
Well, that's why movies like Black Panther and Return to Wakanda was the Wakanda movie.
Wakanda Forever.
It's so important because it is a representative of what we already know about our people. Well, we know we're not come necessarily directly from Africa per se. We went through a whole lot of generations of that, but all that represents what we were all about and what we are. That's why we're so proud of what it is. Not because they're Black people in the movie, because of what our heritage represents.
My guy Jimmy, they said they better not ever give me a radio show. I think the FCC might get involved, Jimmy. But no, I think that it's very, very important. My mom, she chimes in. She raised her sons to be proud Black men. Yeah, and that's something that I will never take away from. They'll never take it away from me. And as long as I am a proud Black man, I'm going to continually fight for what I believe is right for my proud Black community. And I think that it's very important. I want to say this because you brought up two things that are very important. I think that there is a need, and as we get into this conversation, we'll have real meaningful conversations about these types of things. There's been a lot in the news about Kanye and a lot about what's the guy's name, Kyrie Irving, and more recently Dave Chappelle and his show, his stand-up on Saturday Night Live. And so there is this whole conversation about Blackness, and there's a conversation about biblical Blackness, and really what Kyrie and Kanye and really Dave Chappelle alluded to were the fact that for so long our Blackness as a community had been whitewashed from the pages of the most sacred book in the world. Now, some people may think that this is not a big deal, and I asked a white Lutheran pastor a couple of weeks ago. We were having this conversation. He says that we need to really focus on our identity as believers in Yeshua, believers in Jesus. And I said, that's wonderful. I think in a perfect world, that's where we start. But when you have atrocities that we've gone through as a people, where the world has literally created obstacles for our betterment, and it's not that we want anybody to give us anything, but we do desire to be left alone, because we've seen what Black Wall Street and what the Harlem Renaissance could be when we as a people are given an opportunity to soar and to just be who we are as a people. We're creative and we're innovative. And we were having that conversation, and he says, I think that we get too tied up in that conversation. And I asked him this question, and I want to ask this question of those of you who are listening out there today. How many times have you been to a Catholic church and you've seen the depiction of our Lord and Savior as a Black child?
You won't see that unless you go to a COGIC.
I mean, even, but I'm just saying, because identity matters. And when we had that conversation, we were talking about that, and our young people have been led to believe for a long time that we didn't exist, that somewhere in Africa, through a eunuch, the Bible came to Philip the eunuch through a testimony of Timothy, who was a white guy. And this is not about race hate. This is about loving who I am as a Black man. And my history teacher, Mr. War, always told me, he says, what is history, Rob? He said, it's records of the past. And what's the purpose of history? To learn from past mistakes. Right. And he shared that with me. And so I think that it's important for us to have this conversation. Several times in Flint, Washington, D.C., and New York. Well, Jimmy, I appreciate that. I know that there is a shrine of the Black Madonna or something somewhere. I've never seen it. But thank you, Jimmy, for sharing. And I would love to see those places several times in Flint, Washington, and in D.C., New Orleans. I would love to know where those places are so that we could show those pieces. But what I wanted to say was this. As we have a conversation, it's important for us to realize how we are seen and how we're depicted. We've got to begin to understand the importance of that. And Rob, you brought up two movies that we find great pride in.
Black Panther and Wakanda Forever.
Yes, those two movies. So Black Panther, the original, and then Wakanda Forever, which is the sequel minus Chadwick Boseman. And for those of you who have seen Black Panther, absolutely phenomenal. You know, I watch it, you know, over and over again sometimes when I'm just not doing anything. And then we had the new Wakanda Forever. Now, I wasn't all that thrilled on Wakanda Forever. And that is a conversation about the Black family. We'll bring up that conversation about what my issues were with Wakanda Forever. I'm going to set some things here that we'll pick up in my conversation. We'll have a couple other people to come in, and we'll talk about this as we talk about the emergence and the growth and how we grow and we better the village and we empower the Black community and the Black family. And one of the issues that I had, Rob, and we understood, and I believe that anybody can be a leader. I believe that. But I had an issue with Wakanda Forever because not only was the Black Panther no more, but it appeared to me that there was a society that emerged that did not need the Black man to be a part of it in order to be successful in defending its borders. And that was, I loved the special effects. I love a story where Black people are depicted in a positive light. That was just one of my issues. We're going to talk about the other one on next week. Rob, what are you thinking? I see a smile on your face.
It's took the words out of my mouth. That's why I'm reluctant to go see the second movie, because I'm a comic book fan. And I said, you know what, wait a minute. It still should have a Black man there now. Maybe I need to see the movie. You know, maybe talk to Kevin Jones, you know, who bought several tickets.
Absolutely.
For people to go. But on the offset, from what I've seen, I said, wait a minute, the Black man should still be here. Not that he needs to be, but he should be.
And I think that that's a really important, because now we're talking about, and this is where we get into the conversation where I was initially throwing out the conversation about media and how we're presented. Now we get into how even our superheroes are depicted. Well, Black Panther was an amazing movie. I loved it. It's why it was a box office smash. Wakanda Forever, there were still elements of greatness that I could appreciate. However, and thank you very much, Shar Goolsby put in the stream, and I'm going to take a minute to look at those, Shar, some places where we're able to see racial reconciliation, and I believe there are religious images of Black embodiment of the Bible. But I saw in there just some things that were a problem to me, and there is an underlying push in many forms of media to show that sisters are doing it for themselves. And I love my Black sisters. I lean in for them as often as I possibly can. I don't stand for their disrespect. I believe that they are powerful. I love to see them lead in their community. But I think that anytime that we have a sister by herself, there's a different presence when a man stands and occupies his role. So no hate, only love. So I want to thank you guys. We're laying the foundation for this week. Tune in next week at 6 p.m. We're going to get into the heart of this. I know we're moving into this holiday season, Christmas and all of those things, but we're going to, as we turn this corner, we're going to set some vision boards. We're going to talk about family symbols. We're going to talk about what does it mean to have a family crest that represents the legacy that we embrace here as a people, as Black folks. Let's get those plans together. Let's have a vision, not just for ourselves, but let's do vision boards for our family. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It is always a pleasure. I love you all. Thank you for making Straight Talk your #1 talk show. God bless you all. Grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guest,